Hey guys, it's Sarah here. Today I am working in my traveler's notebook and I am working on another flip out page. I had actually originally intended for this to just be a full page photo in my notebook, but after I had printed my photo, I decided to change the orientation and make it more of a horizontal photo than a vertical. So I kind of turned it clockwise about 90 degrees, and I felt like that just kind of changed the whole look of that photo. It definitely kind of brings your eyes more onto my daughter's face, and it looked a lot better to me, even though that's not the way that the photo was taken. So my reason for kind of creating this flip out page was so that I would have a little bit more room, since that photo now spans pretty much the entire width of the notebook. So this flip out definitely added a little bit more space so that I could stamp my title and add a little bit more embellishing. So I am going to adhere down this Felicity Jane pattern paper. I think everything that I'm using in this video is actually from Felicity Jane, with the exception of the stamp set that I'm going to use to stamp my title. But all of the embellishments and pattern papers are from Felicity Jane. So I am using this sort of gray striped paper. It kind of reminds me of a wood grain, even though it's not kind of that imperfect line, but it definitely has sort of a natural look to it. And I wanted to kind of have a monochromatic background so that I could add in some colors towards the end. I actually end up covering up this multicolored stripe that kind of flips over. I do love that stripe, but I felt like in order to add in the other embellishments that I wanted to include, I wanted to kind of cover that up and make it black and white as well. So you'll see that I end up actually switching that up in a little bit. But right now I'm just kind of figuring out what I want to layer underneath my photo. I didn't want to add too many layers because this is already going to be a little bit bulky with the flip out page, but just to kind of make that photo pop a little bit more, I wanted to add a little bit more black underneath some of the corners. So now I'm just figuring out my title, and I'm going in with the Studio Calico Bowie Alpha. This one was released this month, August 2018, and I have to say it's like my new favorite for stamping titles. I thought that the stamp set that released last month was, my favorite, but this is definitely a current favorite for me. I absolutely love kind of I don't know, it almost seems futuristic to me. It's just a very interesting sort of modern alpha. So I really love that, and it was perfect for this title. It kind of fit perfectly. I'm spelling out "to the moon and back," and then I will add in "love you" to the very top using a different stamp set. I'm going to go in with the Ali Edwards, I think this is from her Love Story Kit, and I just pulled out the sentiment "love you." It actually had a third word on there. I'm not sure what it was, but I just used the "love you" part and inked that up, and then I'm going to add that to the very top and put a dot dot dot, and that was my title. So that kind of worked out perfectly, and I love that sort of bold impact of having just a really big title in that flip out area. So I'm going to kind of make a final decision on where I want to place my photo, and then now I'm going to adhere it down. Sometimes I'm not sure if I want to adhere my photo right away or do some stamping or embellishing before I kind of add it in, but I knew that I wasn't going to do any more stamping on this photo, so I went ahead and put it in my notebook just so I could have it in there and then kind of add my embellishments later on. So I'm just tucking those little strips of pattern paper underneath the photo. And I already printed out my journaling, so I'm going to cut them into little strips and then add them on. Normally I end up writing in my notebook, and I really love how that looks. I feel like it adds the personal touch. But I was already printing out some journaling for some other projects, and I decided to go ahead and just type this out and figure out if I was going to use it later on. And I just felt like since I didn't have a lot of space for journaling on this page, this just worked out really nicely. So one of these days I might end up getting a typewriter. I would love a typewriter, and if you have recommendations, I would love to hear them. But for now, I have my computer and a typewriter font, and so whenever you see sort of printed journaling on any of my projects, it is printed out from my computer, and I just either use like a digital card or I will print and kind of cut out strips. So now you can see I am covering up that colored stripe using this black and white paper, and I just felt like that looked a little bit better, and especially with the embellishments that I'm going to be adding in, it definitely helped to kind of make everything just match a little bit better. So I'm pulling out my Felicity Jane die cuts, and I'm just going to kind of play around. I thought maybe I would add in one of these words, but I end up adding in a tag and a couple of flowers and not doing a lot of embellishing, just because, like I said, I didn't want to add any bulk, and I kind of like the more simple look of these full page photos. So I'm just going to do some minimal embellishing here. I really like the look of these borders. I've wanted to do this on a page for a little while, and so I've played around with these borders, these Felicity Jane borders, quite a few times, and I love kind of the mixture of the patterns, and I love how they create these little blocks of space to either do stamping or embellishing in. So I'm just kind of playing around, and I thought that 3 would be the perfect number of frames to have here. So you can see me kind of layering them, but I actually take off that 3rd frame and I decide to just go with the 2, and that 3rd one was just a little bit too big. I definitely want to get a few more frames because I really like kind of how this looks and creating these little borders, but I decided to go with these 2 thinner borders with these really fun patterns as the borders, and then I'm going to add in a couple of little embellishments here. I'm actually using chipboard pieces. I recently had an aha moment from my friend Mel Blackburn. If you follow her on Instagram, she's amazing. You should definitely follow her. But she showed a little tip on her Instagram stories for taking off the bulky part of these chipboard pieces so you can use them in your traveler's notebook, and I was just like, oh my gosh, how did this never occur to me? I can't even believe. But yeah, it's definitely been a game changer, and so I've been using a lot of my chipboard pieces in my traveler's notebook. You can definitely add, you know, the chipboard pieces as they are. I know that a lot of people like to have really chunky traveler's notebooks, and that is awesome. But I prefer to have kind of a thin, well, it's not a thin notebook by the time it's done, but I prefer to have a thinner notebook and have more pages and less bulk. So that's just a personal preference. So this kind of worked out great for me, just being able to add in some chipboard pieces, because there are some really nice designs on those chipboard pieces, and I've just never thought to do that, to kind of bring them in. So I went ahead and brought in that little almost looks like a clipboard towards the bottom right there, and I wanted to kind of have it stick out just a little bit so that it would add a tab to the outside. And now I'm just going to kind of go through my embellishments, and I'm going to select a couple of flowers, and then I will go ahead and tuck those under the corners of my photo. And that will pretty much complete this page. So it ended up being really simple, which I love. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. And I will see you guys again in my next video. Bye!